So it started out with technical evangelism. So I got involved with the creation of the open source community around Java, mobile, and embedded. And so I became Sun's first open source evangelist for that platform about 2 years ago. So the goal and the charter was clearly community growth, technology adoption, developer outreach. And lately, I've actually changed my title, as you said, to community advocate, because I wanted to defocus some of the evangelism aspects. Java is so well known in the industry that I wanted to focus on um, getting in touch with developers, understanding their needs, and trying to feed those needs and that feedback back into the organization, and making sure we produce technologies that the developer actually can use. Recently, we sort of did a recap and we looked at the statistics of the traction we're getting and the community growth, and that was actually very pleasing because we basically started the community from nothing, right? When Sun launched its open source efforts for the Java mobile and embedded space about 2 years ago, we had zero in terms of open source community. And now we have about more than 180 projects in the community, most of which are not Sun. And we have 20,000 activities a month in the community. And activity means, forum accesses, blogs, hits to the blogs, blogging, articles, accesses to the source code, downloads of our podcasts. So if you count all the individual activities that people can engage with on the community, we have a pretty nice run rate at this point. One of the big benefits of having a close relationship to a community, and there is on trust on both sides, is that they give you a lot of unsolicited feedback. Right? It's very valuable, I think, from a marketing and from a strategy perspective, because you cut through all the middlemen and you talk directly to the people who actually use your stuff. One of the big benefits, of opening up your technology and giving people access to it like you do in an open source community, is to establish this two-way communication. And it requires a lot of upfront effort and ongoing effort on your part. If you just take code and dump it somewhere and don't monitor it, don't actively invest in it, don't keep maintaining it and increasing its value, people will lose interest very quickly. So it's really important to make an effort to make sure that the things you offer to the public are actually usable, that they're valuable to them, that they know it's not a one-shot deal, that they actually can invest their time and know it's worth the effort, because in 6 months or a year or 2 years, this thing is still around. That they know that establishing relationships with people on the other side is worth their time, and that these people will stick around, and that the project keeps evolving. And that establishes this level of trust where people on the other side then say, oh, it's really worthwhile for me. There are people who are listening, and I can actually make a difference, and they'll help me. What is in it for me at the end of the day as a developer? I want my job to be easier, and I want my product to get out the door faster, right? And so if a company like Sun listens, if my input is heard, that down the line helps me, and that's why I want to be involved. I mean, there are a few people who get involved just, because they have a hacker mentality and they're just like playing with stuff, and they have no, money comes from somewhere else, and they're not under pressure to produce products. But for the most case, the people who do get involved have, a commercial background. They need to get stuff out the door, and they need to see value in why they want to get involved.
So you, as the community advocate for the mobile platform at Sun, are you a spokesman of the company or of the community?
I need to keep up with the technology and be able to, to have a conversation eye to eye with developers about technology. And they have a very good bullshit detector. If they find out that you're talking marketing and you're talking high-level strategy and you're trying to circumvent the issues, they find that out very quickly. You lose credibility, and your whole community effort sort of starts fading. And so I have to walk this thin line, right? I'm being a spokesperson for Sun, and I need to I need to broadcast the bigger strategy and create some excitement for Sun's technology. But I always try to err on the side of the developer's point of view.
How do you monitor success in community advocacy?
So actually, success is a bit easier because, as I said, in the traditional sense, you can monitor things like activities that are going on, number of projects, number of members in your community. The more interesting question is, how does that tie into revenue, right? What is the relationship between your community efforts and the developer outreach you're doing and the bottom line for the company? And that's, of course, a very tricky topic. And it ties into the bigger subject of open source business models. How do you use open source to create revenue to the bottom line? And I think the industry as a whole is still grappling with that question. There are some methods and some business models that are sort of starting to appear. Right, the services model for Linux, for example, is a pretty obvious one, but there are many others. But the relationship between developer outreach, we've captured 1,000 developers this month, and they've hit our web page and they've requested information. But how many of those are going to sign, a contract or pay us money in some way? That's a difficult discussion because at the end of the day, you have to justify the budget you're using towards management. And for traditional marketing people, that's much easier because those methodologies and that the return on investment has been established over decades, right? And it's been much researched. For open source communities and sort of these loosely coupled, loosely formed communities of not yet customers, the situation is much more sort of fluid and hard to grasp. So that's an ongoing problem. We hardly ever can make the case, give us $10,000, we'll be able to generate X revenue. That's just a very difficult equation to make.